I'll go start game, and the light should go off in 5 seconds. They're off in 5 seconds, and then the fireworks should start. And that's exactly what happens. So this gives you total control over your game. Hey, how's it going? And today we're going to take a look at creating custom gameplay tags that will allow you to control all the devices in your games in unique ways. To get started with this, we're just going to go into a blank island template, and I'm going to delete that one spawner there. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple of the devices that I'm going to be using for this. I'm going to get a customizable light here and drag that into the scene, and I can just raise that up. And these lights are pretty neat because you can try to get this line there. Increase the intensity of the light, change the color, all different kinds of things with it. And then we're going to get a VFX spawner. And this is just going to be some fireworks, and we'll just place that kind of off in the back. And on it, because it'll be playing all the time, we're going to go ahead and disable that on player spawned. And that pretty much takes care of our devices. If we come onto any of these devices, the game tags can be applied to any device, any prop, or any verse authored device. Once you can put custom tags on things, you can go and retrieve those items, change the reference to it, and then command it to do whatever you want it to do. So in this case, we're going to have 2 lights in the scene. Everything's going to be tagged. There's ultimately going to be 3 devices in the scene, and they're going to be tagged, and then we're going to go get those references to those tags and then convert those into the actual object reference, and then we can manipulate those items on command, basically. So it's a really powerful feature. To get started with creating a tag, though, we need to actually make sure that there's a tag component on every device that we want to be tagged. I'm going to click on the customizable light here, and if we click here and go to add, we scroll down and you'll see one that says verse tag markup, and we'll select that. When I first saw this, I thought that you were just restricted to the built-in tags. So like if you click here and you come here, you'll see there's already tags in here. I thought we were restricted to just these tags, but we're not at all. We can create any custom tag we want. But I'm just showing you this now to show you that these are the built-in ones, but we can create any number of tags that make sense for what we're trying to do. Come on to the Verse Explorer, click on My Project, left click, and then right click here, and we'll create a new project. I'll just leave this called Hello World 3 or something like that, and go create, and save selected. Now I already have the code built for this, so we're just going to go ahead and double click into this file, go ahead and make it full screen, and control V that in. So let's just go over this code real simply. There's a lot going on here. It's really interesting about Verse that just one line of code is like packed with all kinds of concepts in it. But to get started, we have our modules here, and for this to work, we need to add a module called simulation tags. So here is where we can create a custom tag, and we can name it anything that makes sense. So for this example, I'm creating 2 groups. I'm just using one of them though, and it's called tag underscore group 1. And in this group, I'm going to tag the VFX spawner and the customizable light. I'm going to tag those 2 creative devices in the scene. And once I create this in the Verse code, they'll appear where I showed you earlier. So here's our Hello World device. I'll begin play. And because this has suspense, I can put this to sleep for 5 seconds. Now these 2 lines of code, even though that doesn't seem like there's much to them, they cover a lot of ground and go to really the heart of this functionality here. If I hold down Control and click here, this Get Creative Object with Tags, you can see it says what it does right here. Returns an array containing all creative objects which have been marked with the specified tag. And it's of the type creative object interface. So when it goes and gets those, what it's really getting is an object reference to this creative object interface. So we're not actually getting a reference to the object itself, we're getting a reference to this type that's tagging that object. So it's going to go and get every object tag underscore group 1 and put it in an array of tagged actors. We have an array of these creative object interface references, but we don't actually have a reference to the object itself. So that's what this next line of code does. So now we have a for loop, and a for loop, you can think of it as a one-time only through loop. So what we're asking it to do is make one pass over this. Now this expression is also a failable expression, and that's why this is in brackets, because it might be that it fails to return anything. It could come back empty-handed. This little bit of code right here, what it's doing, it's converting the object references in the array from the tag type to the correct object type reference. One of the tagged actors is a customizable light device. So what it's going to do, it's going to get that tagged typed reference and say, can I cast this into this light device? And if it can, then it succeeds. And then what I've got here now is an object reference to my customizable light device. Now I can command that object to do anything that I would normally be able to do through the verse code. So in this case, I'm telling it to turn off. So in this sense, this typecasting that's going on here is acting as a filter. If it can convert the tag type to the actual object reference type, then that's a success. But for like the VFX spawner, it's not going to do anything because it can't convert that type. So what we can do is make a separate for loop and do the same thing. It's going to get all the type references and convert them to object references if it can do it. So because there is a VFX spawner, it will convert that one tag over to an object reference that then I can enable in the scene. And then I can put as many of these as I want. So it's going to turn the lights off and then turn the VFX on after 5 seconds. The last thing that we have to do now that we have this is we've actually got to go back in the scene now and tag those devices. So that's not too hard to do. With the VFX spawner, if I come into the outliner, I click on it, I come down here to add, verse tag markup right here, edit, you'll see. The reason I'm not seeing it is because we didn't compile our code. So I'd have to build the verse code. Okay, so now if I come in here, you see we have tag group 1 and tag group 2. So I just select that. And now I have a way to track down that item with that custom tag. And then for the customizable light, it's the same thing. I can click on it. Did I add a tag for this one yet? I did. So it's right there. Come here, edit, and then I'm going to tag it right there. And now the good thing about having tagged this, if I select it in the scene, and I come to it, here is it, here, F. I guess I have to select it up here. If I select Alt and left click and drag, I made a copy of the light. So now I have 2 lights. And it's already tagged. So it's very easy to duplicate them once you've done 1 or 2. So I'm adding several of them, as a matter of fact. So now how many do I have? I made 4 of them. So now I have 4 lights all tagged. And that's all we have to do. So all I have to do now is just push those. Oops, I do need to drag my verse device into the scene. And that's it. I'll go start game. And the light should go off in 5 seconds. They're off in 5 seconds, and then the fireworks should start. And that's exactly what happens. So this gives you total control over your game.